This is the Apostles That Rock Podcast.
Hey, we're following up.
Hey, this is Mark from Casting Crowns.
Hey, what's up? I'm Toby Mack.
Hi, this is Dawn from Firefly, and you're listening to Apostles That Rock.
This is the Apostles That Rock Podcast. I'm Thomas Lopez. It's episode 96, and on this podcast, our own Tim Ewing will be talking with Aaron Rule. Aaron Rule is the founder and speaker of Fight The Darkness Ministries. He is from Bluffton, Ohio, and he has a passion for sharing the gospel of Jesus. He ministers to teens and young adults who struggle with alcohol, drugs, bullying, depression, suicide, and self-harm. Here's Tim now as he talks with Aaron Rule.
How you feeling? I know that the last time we had spoke, you were under the weather.
I'm doing better. I was down in Nashville, Tennessee. It was like 80, 90-degree weather. And then I came back to Ohio, which was 55-degree weather, so I got a cold from back up.
Wow.
Ohio.
I can see how that can be quite a different extreme for you.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm so happy that I'm speaking with you today. I've kind of followed you a little bit through different media sites and whatnot, but for the people that don't know who you are a motivational speaker who shares the gospel of Jesus with teenagers and young adults who struggle with alcohol, drugs, bullying, depression, suicide, and self-harm. Before we delve into that a little bit, could you tell us a little bit more about your backgrounds? Because you have a little bit of an interesting story of how you grew up and just about things that were going on in your childhood years, your teenage years, and what happened to you to make you kind of do what you're doing now.
I grew up in the church when I was younger. And then I went to a small church, about the size of like maybe 100 people.
Uh-huh.
And so we started going there, and then when I was younger, we left the church because the pastor left the church there, and my parents really liked the church. And so they really liked the pastor and everything, so we left. And then I started going to Youth for Christ in my area when I was in junior high.
Okay.
When I was in 7th grade. And then I went through there through high school, and then went to when I graduated high school. In high school, I was severely bullied. My freshman year, it all started like severely bad. When I was on school grounds, I was just my own business. A kid decided to throw a big piece of blacktop, hit me right in the head.
Oh my goodness.
And I got concussion from that, and the doctors said it was inches from hitting me in the temple and killing me.
Wow.
I got a concussion from it. I have a speech problem because of it, and I get headaches all the time. And throughout high school, I was pushed in lockers and just bullied. And then I had another incident my sophomore year in high school where I was running, got tripped, I fractured my right arm, and had to have knee surgery my junior year. And the surgery my junior year, there was this invasive scope surgery where doctors said nothing should go wrong, that you should be fine after surgery. I had complications from that surgery where my knee swelled up so badly, the doctor saw me lose my right leg to the swelling and the damage that the swelling was causing.
Wow, that's crazy.
The kid did it because he wanted to take my basketball spot in the basketball team, but he never tried out. So I became a manager my sophomore, junior, and senior year because I couldn't play. Sophomore year was because of my arm. My junior year was because my knee. And then senior year, the coach decided to be manager. So I was manager for my high school team, and he really appreciated it. I really loved it. So I was part of the team still, but I couldn't play because of injuries. And then my senior year, I wanted to go to college, become a youth pastor. And I went to this college, and I was on the IEP, and I had a learning disability, so it was a learning disability classes in high school. And this college told me, I was there for a week, said they did not have any way of helping me with instruction, and because I was on IEP and everything. So they kicked me out. That night, I went home, it was like a 7-hour drive back home.
Wow.
I felt worthless because I felt like I'm not going to succeed at life. And I was going to take a bunch of painkillers, and I told God, I'm like, if this person doesn't answer, I'm going to kill myself and take a bunch of painkillers. And luckily she answered and talked me out of it. And then in 2013, I wanted to, help others that are dealing with stuff in their lives. So I started my ministry, Fight The Darkness Ministries. So I travel the country and share my story of what I've dealt with in my life, like my testimony, and share to others that there is hope in Jesus, that He loves you no matter what you're going through. He's there for you no matter what.
That's awesome.
And now I'm a youth leader. I'm the youth pastor at my church. I've been doing it for quite a while, and I love, helping with my church, with the youth and everything, and then do my ministry.
Wow, sounds like you've had quite a journey. It's very similar to my story, which is kind of interesting because I too, growing up, was bullied beyond what should have been bullied. I was the kid that was to 5'1" until I was a senior in high school, and I had big ears, and I was the easy target, and I would cry a lot, and I was always the butt of the jokes, and I was very depressed a lot, and I had a similar experience where one of the kids stepped on my ankle and fractured my ankle. So, in terms of that, I totally understand where you're coming from. And then I wanted to go into youth ministry because I wanted to be someone like you who went around and was an encouragement to kids and teenagers who were like me growing up, the kids that were struggling the way that I was, that were bullied the way that I was. I wanted to give them some hope and encouragement that God loves them and that they were not alone and that they could get through anything. And after I graduated from Eastern and from doing youth ministry as long as I have, I know what you do as a speaker to youth is incredibly important, not only for their mental health, but for these kids' physical health and for their spiritual health as well. I wish I had someone like you because, like I said earlier, I had battled heavily with depression and even thoughts of suicide, and I felt alone a lot. And it was ultimately only my faith and support from my family that I was able to overcome and push through these things in my life.
The events I speak at, I try to connect. If there's some youth that is struggling and is hurting, I try to connect them to a youth pastor or whoever's in charge of that event. So when I leave, they actually have someone there to actually help them and talk to them after I leave the event or that.
I love that. That's always good to be able to use people that are around the area, because when you leave, that kid needs to know that there's someone that's going to be there to care for them, that they're not going to be alone, that they have someone they can turn to if they have a problem or if they have something that needs to be taken care of in a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had mentioned that your primary focus is dealing with the alcohol, the drugs, the bullying, depression, suicide, and self-harm. If I was a teenager that was struggling with one of those things or all of those things, what would you say to me?
I would tell you that, no matter what you're going through, Jesus is there for you. You shouldn't have to do things because, because I know you're hurting and struggling, and that God is there for you and He loves you no matter what you're going through, and that He forgives you for what you've done. Like if you cut, He forgives you. Mm-hmm. If you drugs, He forgives you. And if you, done alcohol or struggle with suicide, He loves you no matter what.
Right.
And He loves you. And so I, at the events, I do connect youth that are struggling with that to someone like an adult, so to have someone there.
Mm-hmm.
After I leave.
Well, that's really great advice, and a lot of kids really need to hear that sort of thing. But as a motivational speaker, a lot of times you can plant a lot of seeds, but you don't really get to witness the, kind of after effects of it because you're constantly traveling from here to there. But do you have any stories of where you were able to hear, like, of a positive, story of you were able to say something to some kid, and then later on they came back and said, what you said to me really helped me to go through whatever it was? Do you have any, really cool stories of kind of, the after effect of it?
I had this one event, it was a couple years ago. It was a festival, and this girl came up to me, and she was like, I've been struggling with cutting and that, and everything. And she actually handed me, in a little baggie, the razor blade she was actually cutting herself with.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
that was the most, shocking thing, because I wasn't expecting it and everything. And then I connected her with the youth pastor there. That was at that event. So she had some there.
Wow.
And I always check up on some of the youth that, come up to me. So I, talk to the person that I've got them connected with, like adult. I talk to some of the adults sometimes, and just, see how they're doing the youth.
Right.
That girl I've heard she's gotten better. She doesn't cut anymore. She's actually attending church more often now, which is great.
That is great. Now, on top of your ministry, Fight the Darkness, another ministry that's near and dear to your heart and that you're a strong advocate for is Save the Storks. Could you tell me more about this ministry and how you got involved with it and why you're so passionate about it?
Save the Storks, they're a organization out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. They have these vans, these sprinter vans, all over the country, and they sit across the street from abortion clinics. And on the side of the vans, they sometimes say free sonograms, free pregnancy tests, and they basically, the girls see that and they see it's free, so they come in the vans and they show the mom the baby and the heartbeat and everything, and they actually share the gospel to these girls. And 4 out of 5, women actually choose life after they hear the heartbeat. And then some of them are connected with organizations like parenting, like the Help the Mom and everything. So they actually are with the organization, so they help them throughout the pregnancy and when they have the baby.
Cool. That's another really cool thing, because a lot of times girls, when they're in desperation where they don't really know where to turn to, like seeing something that will not judge them, but ultimately give them resources and things that they need is really needed. And a lot of times girls won't know what to do unless they have somebody to kind of help them through it. And that seems like that organization really takes the time to walk each step through to make sure that they have exactly what they need and that they know what's going on each step of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the organization. I've got to know some people that work for the organization. I just think it's a great organization. That's why, I wanted to be ambassador for them and work with them, because they're such a great organization.
Cool. Now, when you go around and you talk with these kids and you hear these stories and you just, are in the trenches, that's got to be emotionally draining and mentally draining at times. Have you ever had a story that was so over the top, that was just mind-boggling, that it was just overwhelming, where you just said, wow, I don't really know what to say, or I want to quit? Or how do you compartmentalize these situations so it doesn't affect you mentally and spiritually? Because that's really got to be a rough day job, to be able to just constantly deal with the negativity and the harshness of life.
I sometimes, if a youth is really, really struggling or crying, I sit them down and ask them what's wrong and, what they're struggling with. And, I've dealt with a lot of only that in my life. So it kind of helps me in a way to talk to these teens that are dealing with these things in their life. So I ask them what's wrong and everything. I talk to them about their situation. I help and, actually give a listening ear to them, because some of these teens don't feel like they're being listened to.
Right.
And so I sit down and talk to them, and, I give them resources if they need it. Like I give out at all my shows, I actually have on my table free Bibles.
Oh, cool.
So them ask, can I have a free Bible? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I tell them, whenever you feel like you're hurting or feel lost, to read the Bible, because that's God's word and He loves you and this is His words.
Yeah.
And everything.
So what does a typical day look like for you? Walk us through the day in the life of Aaron Rule.
I work on a typical day when I'm not on the road. I work for AutoZone, so I do that. I'm there for like a couple hours, like 5-6 hours, sometimes 8 hours. And then on Wednesday nights in school year, I am a youth leader. So I'm there from like 6 to like 9. And then on Sundays, I'm there in the mornings to like maybe noon to the church.
Okay.
So I'm constantly busy in and out of work, helping my church, but I do have a part-time job. So I'm constantly on the road and always doing something,
Right.
keeping myself busy when I'm not on the road.
Gotcha.
But when I'm on I travel, I make sure I'm there a couple hours early, and then, set up the table, set my merch table up, and then go from there and see when I go on and everything. And then I stay, for my shows, I stay till the last minute leaves. Because I believe that I want to stay there because there could be someone struggling with something, and they don't want to talk to someone about it when there's a bunch of people around. They want to wait until less and less people are in the room or at the event.
Right.
So I stay until the last person leaves. I'm normally all the events I speak at.
Wow, that's really cool.
So I'm there till like maybe 11 or 10:30 at night at my events I do speak at.
So when you do speak, generally how long are your talks? And do you cover other topics, or is it just pretty much the 5 that we kind of already talked about?
I normally I like to speak between bands. So I do 10-15 minutes because I share my story, my testimony, and some, things about bullying and that, and depression, suicide, and all that. And then I share, if I'm allowed, I share about Sid and Storks. So I go between bands, and the next band comes up, and I introduce the next band.
Okay.
Other events.
Cool. Now, if somebody wants to book you for an event, I saw that you just recently partnered with Rob Montes of RPM Live. Is that the best way to get you booked, or is there any other way that they can schedule you to come and speak at their event?
You can go through Rob, and then on Facebook, you can message me through my ministry page, or you can email me, and then I'll email Rob saying, "Oh, this is an event," and that. So you could do, Rob, my Facebook page, which is Fight the Darkness Ministries, or emailing me at fightthedarknessministries@gmail.com.
Cool. Is there any other place online that they can go to find to connect with you?
That's the only way is Facebook right now. I'm trying to raise enough funds to make a website.
Okay. But that's the best way is Facebook. And say that one more time. What's the Facebook page and what's the email address?
My email address is fightthedarknessministries@gmail.com.
Okay.
And my Facebook page, you just search Fight the Darkness Ministries, and it should come up. And it's a picture of, let me see what it is now, of me in front of a old train.
Okay.
So that's my page.
Cool. So what's coming up for you in the future? Do you have any things now that summer's coming around? I'm sure it's festival time. What's going on in the near future?
I'm working on a few festivals to get on. I'm also going to go on the Extreme Tour for a couple of dates this summer. And I'll be on various dates on that. So that's what I have planned now.
Cool. Now, you've got all these really great stories, and you've got quite a testimony. Have you ever thought about putting it on paper and bringing out a book?
I don't know if I would be that concentrated writing a book. I've always thought about it, but I'm like, I don't know. I thought it would be kind of cool to write a book, but I don't know if I feel like, I don't know if that's what God wants me to do right now.
Right. Well, I know that there's a lot of things that weigh on you every day. Is there anything we can pray for you about?
Just pray for me with my traveling, and just pray for me in general, and, my day-to-day life.
Cool. Thank you so much for all that you do for the kingdom and for your willingness to take these topics on head on. The youth of this nation really need more people like you, and it's been just amazing just hearing about your ministry and the impact that it's having on people. And I just really hope that you have enjoyed this time as much as I have, and I pray that God continues to use you mightily in terms of reaching young people for the gospel, because that's my heart too, as a youth leader and as a youth advocate as well. So I just want to thank you for all that you do, and want to encourage you that what you're doing is making a difference. And thank you so much for all that you do.
You're welcome, and God bless.
Evangelizing through music. Through the blood of Christ. Apostles that rock.
If you love what we do here, consider supporting us. Your giving goes a long way to reach people for Christ. Click donate at apostlesthatrockradio.com, where you can also check out our online radio station. We're playing some of today's top Christian artists. That's apostlesthatrockradio.com. That's going to do it for this podcast. Join us back here next time for more Apostles That Rock.